All right, I think we are live. So, hello. Welcome back to Tea Time Talk. We are now reaching this is our second season, I'd like to say. But my name is Fritz. I used to do the show back in last year. I think it was last year I used to do the show, but I'm back now to do it again. I used to do it with Josh, but Josh has gone on placement. So I'm joined today by two close friends of mine. So I'm joined by Reuben.
Hello.
So Reuben is a close friend of mine that's living in my hall. And I'm also joined by Nezar.
Hello. Thanks for having me on your show.
Oh, yeah. Likewise.
So first of all, welcome to you both. And also to the people listening, welcome as well. It has been a while. Last time we did this show, I think, was in like January or December. So we are back. So a bit of a description about what Tea Time Talk is. Tea Time Talk is a radio show. It's a bit of a talk show where we talk about what's happened in the news. And we spend the first half talking about what's happening in the news. And then we spend the second half talking about what sort of interests us, if there's anything that is interesting, any topics, anything that, you'd like to bring up. Because this is our first show back, we'd maybe like to do a little review of what's happened over the summer for this week. So I'll pass it on to you guys. So have you guys got any sort of interesting stories from over the summer that you'd like to bring up?
I personally don't. I've kind of been dead to the world over the summer, as most students are probably just relaxing and enjoying the summer.
Yeah.
So yeah, personally, I don't have anything at the moment.
That's fine. What about you, Nezar?
Likewise, I wasn't the most social this summer. I was just relaxing and enjoying retaking a year. So besides that, no, not much has happened.
Not much has happened in your lives.
We're not exciting people, are we?
Hey, you're exciting enough to me. Well, I did bring a few things, so there are a few things that we could discuss if you'd be interested in doing that.
Sounds good.
Sounds good, yeah.
So one of the big stories that's happened over the last couple of months has been North Korea. And North Korea has been very proactive and, I wouldn't say causing trouble around the world, but it's been very proactive recently, and it's done a lot of stuff that a lot of countries are worried about. A lot of people would call shady, a lot of different opinions for different people. But I'd like to hear what your opinions on that are. So, what about you, Reuben? What do you think of this whole North Korea situation?
Well, I think I've heard about the fact that North Korea had launched a test missile over Japan. Mm-hmm. I remember hearing about that. Mm-hmm. And from what I can tell, it seems like the old style of Cold War tactics. So obviously, back in the Cold War, they used to launch missiles in order to just flex their military power and show that they mean business. Mm-hmm. So while people do see it as a threat, you also have to understand that North Korea is also trying to intimidate us. Mm-hmm. And trying to make us, react irrationally or out of fear rather than out of logic.
Okay. So you think North Korea is trying to sort of hype themselves up a bit?
Yeah, they're trying to flex them. Yeah, military muscles. They're trying to flex on us. So yeah, they're just flexing on us. I do feel like it's a bit of a threat towards Japan.
Flexing on us. Really?
I mean,
no,
yeah.
I get it.
But yeah, I do think it's just it is a threat, mm-hmm. But it's mostly about intimidation and hyping themselves up rather than an actual, we will do this to you.
Okay, what do you think, Nezar?
I am definitely of a similar mindset. My thing is, yes, I do believe North Korea is using it as a threat, specifically, obviously, towards the country they would love to intimidate the most, the good old US of A. Okay. I do feel like Kim Jong-un specifically is trying to intimidate President Trump. I think that maybe he wants him to try and back down with, nuclear weapons, but it really, when you see Trump's response, though, he's really not backing down in any way, is he? No. He doesn't seem scared at all. That's arguably, it's up for debate whether that's a good thing or not. A lot of people would say that, Trump's not speaking for the country, he's kind of just speaking from his own mindset.
Yeah.
But I personally do think what North Korea are doing is just intimidation. I don't think they'd ever, personally, I don't think that they'd ever get to a point where they'd actually launch a nuke. Yeah, I think it's all just it's just, you know, big words.
You think it's big words?
That's all I think it is. You know, there's not much to gain in it, because you launch at them, you're gonna be fired back twice as bad. It's really, everyone, you know, you can claim what you want about Kim Jong-un. Yes, he's crazy, but is he that crazy? That's the point I'm getting at. Would he ever get to that stage? Then again, some would argue that the president of the US is also crazy, but discussion for another
Well, they're
day.
certainly not helping each other by being at each other's throats constantly, are they?
No,
Because when we're looking at the, you know, every time we discuss North Korea, there is the counterforce that is Donald Trump.
Yes.
So looking at the whole sort of interaction between the two, it is a bit shaky, and I actually kind of have a concern for. I feel like I feel like they pose a legitimate threat, because it doesn't necessarily take them shooting a nuclear missile at a country to start a war. If they keep testing it, and eventually one of these missiles go wrong, or eventually they test it to the point where it does hurt someone, then of course the international organizations will be forced to respond. And whether that is an all-out nuclear war, or whether that is more sanctions on North Korea, who knows what will happen. But when I think about what North Korea is doing, I do honestly consider them a bit of a threat. I always take everything with a pinch of salt, especially when it comes to sort of states fighting amongst each other or doing those kinds of things, because you never know what will lead to war.
True. Yeah.
They probably are the biggest, I'd say, right now, probably the biggest threat, just because of how their society is, how they kind of isolate themselves, and they've kind of got this mindset for the people, you know, through manipulation, that like, we're the strongest, nothing can happen to us. So maybe, you know, there's an odd chance maybe they would do something dangerous, because from the citizens' point of view, maybe they don't know the ramifications of their actions, and they're just going to support their government regardless.
It is a bit ridiculous.
They kind of hype up Kim Jong-un to the point of like almost being a god. So it kind of is really quite ridiculous. And I do fear that that he may gather like a god complex from this, and maybe do something irrational, maybe do something that's ill-advised. But that's all, you know, we can't really say. We don't know what's going on behind closed curtains.
How would you two address this then? What would you do if you were, let's say you were the leader of the free world right now? What would you do to sort of diffuse this situation with North Korea?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I would want to relax tensions.
Okay.
I want to I wouldn't want to hype up tensions, because if I did that, there could be a hostile threat. There could, you know, there could be an attack or a launch, and I wouldn't want to risk my people being hurt, or, you know, just adjusting the mic. Hello. But no, I do believe that I would want to reduce tensions rather than inflate them.
Okay.
But what would you need to give North Korea to try and reduce tensions?
What
Do you know what I mean?
what North Korea wants is practically the removal of nuclear weapons from America.
Yeah.
They want
That's
America
true.
to back off.
And that's something you just can't do.
Yeah.
That's a demand you can't give into.
Especially with America, yeah.
Ideally, you know, in a perfect world, there would be no nuclear weapons.
Yeah, of
There's
course,
no
of
need to
course.
develop it, no need to have them. But when you do have them, you become a legitimate threat, and people will listen to you.
That is true. It's a double-edged sword, because having those nuclear weapons around is tension for war, like the Cold War, or it's also used as a way to stop war in a way that, like, don't fire at us, we've got this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, like, people are less likely to get involved in war because they know how powerful those kind of weapons are. So that, you know, it's a double-edged sword, the way nuclear weapons are working right now. But yes, in an ideal world, they wouldn't be around at all.
What about yourself, Nezar? What would you do?
I have no idea what I'd do to stop tensions with North Korea. I genuinely think that it's a country that's kind of
Unstoppable.
pretty much, right? That what they want is, besides the removal of nukes, like, they really don't like America, like, at all.
They're not the only country, I suppose. There's quite a lot of countries that don't like America. That's not saying America's a bad country, but there are a lot of countries that would.
I honestly don't think I could think of a demand that we could give North Korea that would want them to back down, unless it was the removal of nuclear weapons, or the disappear, or just America going away. But that's none of those things are going to happen. So
well, there is the complete removal of North Korean power, or like you just don't accept North Korea as a state. But then that's a whole different catalogue of issues. That's like giving it a nuke. That's basically giving them armor to fire.
Yeah, they have nothing to lose at that point.
Yeah. Well, I guess for North Korea, that'll probably be that. Unless you guys have anything else you want to input in regards to North Korea.
No, I'm good.
Not particularly.
You guys feeling safe in the world today? Are you feeling really safe?
No, I'm fine.
Are you feeling relatively safe right now?
I feel very safe in Loughborough, specifically.
Well, how do you feel about the UK's position on it, though? Because what is the UK doing? The UK. Wait, from what I remember, I think Theresa May is basically yes. If it comes to it, we will press the nuclear button.
I think Britain in this position has very little to lose. Because obviously, in terms of range, the missiles of North Korea can't reach. They're struggling to get missiles to America. So having missiles reach the UK is a far distant dream, I would presume, for North Korea.
Right.
So I think in terms of this situation, England has, or Great Britain, or the UK has quite a good position, because if they do fire, there's no ramifications to them specifically. Obviously, in terms of alliances, things will change, and obviously we may have to support other countries who are in range of the missiles. But in terms of our actual physical well-being, I think we'll be all right.
Okay.
But obviously, I would like there to be a option where we don't have to do anything. We rather negotiate out, reduce tensions. Negotiation, yeah.
Okay.
But
I feel I'm inclined to agree with you. I mean, hopefully negotiations work out. But again, we live in one of the most difficult times in regards to politics. So much is changing in regards to politics, and it will lead us on to our next story. Really, that was smooth segue right there. But the next sort of section that I wanted to bring up was, of course, probably the biggest thing that's affected people who live in the UK was the snap elections. So a bit of a backstory for those who haven't kept up. So maybe you two don't.
No, I'm kind of up to date on this one.
You're up to date on this one?
A little bit.
Okay, so just a bit of a background story. So on June 8th, there was a snap election held. In this snap election, the winner needed to get 326 seats. Conservatives got 318, which was 42.4%. Labour got 262, which was 40%. The Liberal Democrats got 12 seats, which was 7.4. Now, those are just the main major actors, apart from the SNP, of course, which is another main actor. But I want to hear what you guys' opinion on this snap election was, because there was the lead up to the actual election, then there was the aftermath of the election, and this a lot of people have said that the Conservatives took an L, or I'll say it like that, the Conservatives lost. But of course, how can they lose when they're still in power? So, what do you think?
I completely agree that they've taken a loss due to the fact that Theresa May basically hyped herself up and said that, basically trying to show that that the Conservatives were stronger than ever, when in actual fact they're weaker. Obviously, because they lost a lot of seats during that election.
They lost, if I'm correct, 13 seats.
Yeah, 13 seats.
Yeah.
And they had to align themselves with the DUP, which, for those of you at home who don't know, they're anti-LGBT, LGBT, and they're anti-choice for abortions. So obviously, there's a lot of people in the Conservatives who agree with the LGBT community, as well as are pro-choice. So obviously, Theresa May aligning herself with the DUP was both an indication that she was desperate, and in terms of future votes, I think she will lose a whole ton of votes due to that.
Okay. So we have one that's saying that, basically the Conservative parties did take a massive L here. What about yourself, Nezar?
Well, in terms of my opinions on the snap election in general, I actually it kind of goes into the whole Conservative thing, because in terms of Theresa May, I do agree she was hyping herself up very much. Part of me felt like when she was doing when the snap elections were announced in the first place, part of me felt that she wasn't really into it, and she just kind of gave into it because people wanted a snap election because
of Brexit.
Yeah, because of Brexit, because David Cameron had to step down. Theresa May, more or less, was handed rather than,
willingly accepting.
Yeah, rather than earning her position. So, from my perspective, it kind of seemed like she was kind of not really willing to take part in the snap election, but she gave it anyway. Labour, this year in particular, seemed like a really, really dangerous opponent.
Do you mean good or dangerous or bad dangerous?
Dangerous from her perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
What your opinion on politics is doesn't matter, because from Theresa May's perspective, they were the biggest opposition. Jeremy Corbyn had a huge following, and he was expected to kind of basically bring life back to the Labour Party. He was he was their new leader put on. A lot of people that I know personally were big Labour supporters. It kind of, from my perspective, I kind of thought this year Labour was going to win, and when I heard that Conservatives did end up staying because of aligning, that to me, I kind of got a sense of desperation from it. Well, we're not going to stay if we don't align ourselves with anyone else. So that's what they did with the DUP of all people.
Just a question to the host here. I just want to remind myself, was it David Cameron that allowed the equal rights to marriage? So
yes, it was under David Cameron's government. I remember having a discussion about that when it happened, and I was in sixth form, so that was definitely under David Cameron's government.
Right, okay. It's interesting then, because obviously if they've aligned themselves with the DUP...
It's a bit, yeah.
It seems that they're going against even their own beliefs with that one. I know Conservatives are very traditionalist, and possibly, when I heard that Conservatives did this, I was a bit surprised, because obviously I always understood them to be of traditional values, and so more obviously in terms of progression, I thought they'd avoid that. But since they did that, it was, quite good.
Well, again, the party's under a completely different leader, and you can the way, for me personally, the way that Theresa May seems is like she's trying to play an ironclad lady, but isn't really doing a massive job at it. She's not in the best of position, I will argue, because she's been handed off one of, if not the most important decision to affect the UK since World War II, perhaps.
Possibly, yeah.
Since perhaps World War II, because us leaving the European Union is important.
Very big deal, yes.
And it's, for me personally, it's not something that's being handled correctly and as of now. But she isn't in the best of position. And if I were to throw out a bit of a leaf bone here, I don't necessarily know if I would want her representing England or the United Kingdom.
I personally wouldn't.
I definitely agree with that. If there's one word that comes to mind, it's incompetence, and I think that represents our current Prime Minister very well.
Well, you might want to be careful there. A lot of people will say that she's doing quite well. It depends. Again, this depends
on... It's from a point of view, and I've actually heard a lot of people say this general election between her and Corbyn, it's a lose-lose situation we have. I'm not going to get my opinion on Corbyn out here, but I can definitely see the point of view that Corbyn wouldn't have been a bad choice either. I do feel like a lot of the stuff that he was saying was kind of, you could argue, was somewhat unrealistic, and was kind of more like, if in a perfect world we could live with that kind of thing. Like he did want to remove stuff like the tuition fees and stuff like that, and you could argue, yeah, it's probably great for the students and stuff like that, but
it's not a realistic goal to achieve in that time.
Yeah, is it ideal for the country? You got to think of the bigger picture. It's so yes, I have heard the point of view that no matter who we were getting, it was a lose-lose situation.
Yeah.
I know some people personally who just flat out didn't vote because they really just didn't want to choose one or the other because they thought both candidates were terrible.
Again, okay, normally we should have wrapped up that point, but again, the whole issue with people not choosing to vote, what's your opinion on that? Because I felt like this was the one election where people should have voted. This was the one election where it was necessary that people voted, because if you wanted a change, this was going to be the point.
Well, it's like we've not learned anything from that vote that happened in 2016, which was very important and is paving the way for the future of this country.
You might as well just straight up state it. It's called Brexit.
It's not censored yet.
It's not a word that we're going to get murdered over, I tell you that much.
It seems like we're really not learning from it. Obviously, no, a lot of more people voted in this than they did Brexit. But like, really, just learn. Research. Take an hour of your time, research it, and then choose a candidate. Like, come on, it's really not that hard.
I mean, it could be too much and too little information. So maybe there's a case of people not voting because they didn't research enough or understand the policies or the manifestos of both parties. But at the same time, you could have, I don't know, but they could have people who know so much about the manifesto that they couldn't physically decide. And so, obviously they could have just flipped a coin or something if they couldn't decide between the two. But would you really want to leave the fate of a country into a coin toss?
No, you shouldn't be doing that either.
No, so that,
that's why I said you should definitely be researching it. Take time out of your day.
Well,
Procrastinate and do something with your time.
Again, let's acknowledge there's more than two parties in this election.
Of course,
there is the SNP, there is the Liberal Democrats, there is several parties. Of course,
we're just talking about the two main parties.
Yeah,
obviously there are other parties, but it seems that they don't have. Well, obviously they don't have the same representation as the Labour or Conservative parties.
If in 4 years that those smaller parties become one of the two main ones, we can discuss about those and not bring up Labour at all.
Yeah, when they have more. Obviously we can talk about the DUP now because obviously
they are in there somewhere.
They're in a coalition with our government.
Yes.
So
yes.
Well, they are our government.
A question: are we certain that this snap election is it definitely the last one, or are they trying to get another one coming along?
No, this should definitely be. This is guaranteed. Well, I would like to say it's guaranteed 5 years, but if something shakes the foundation so much that another one needs to be called, then it probably will be called.
Okay.
Looking at the current state of politics, and even now, it's a bit shaky still. We don't know exactly what's going on. We're trying to figure everything out. And lies are being thrown across the room, and contradictions and things that were, retcons severely are being thrown across the room. So we'll just have to see how the future goes for our political system. Right, I think we'll probably take a bit of a break for there. We'll put on a little bit of a song, and then we'll come back in a bit and we'll do our section where we just sort of chill out and enjoy something. So we'll put on some music for you. Okay, so we're back. We had a little bit of a break there, just a bit of a refresher to catch up and talk amongst ourselves. So sorry if we didn't cover a particular news story over the summer. Normally we'd do a bit more, but because we started a bit late today, so we didn't manage to cover everything that we would like to cover. But hopefully there'll be more chances to cover more news stories in the future. So sorry if you didn't hear a particular story or a topic that was of interest to you. That's just due to time constraints. But we're now going to move on to a section that's a bit more open-ended. So this is part of the show is where we sort of discuss things that are interesting to us or things that, we want to bring up. If it's anything from over the past couple of months, then go ahead, bring that up. If there's anything more recent that you want to bring up, there's that as well. So let's start with Ruby. Ruby, have you got anything you'd like to bring up?
I believe one of the topics we're all quite interested in is YouTube, the current state of YouTube.
Oh, yeah. Right. Who wants to start that one then?
Oh boy, I'll refrain from that. Thank you.
As a YouTuber myself, I'll probably have a lot to say.
Yeah.
Nezar, do you want to come in with something on that?
Where do you start with the current state of YouTube? That's the thing.
Let's start with. Because it's a good point. That's a good question because over the since I last did this show, a lot of stuff has happened to YouTube. There has been major changes to the platform, to how people can earn monetization, how people can earn money, what people can say even. Let's start. Okay, I know exactly where to start. Let's start with the big YouTube story of PewDiePie. Of course, this is already a story that's gone by a while ago. People, this is a long time ago story. But let's begin with PewDiePie's little, racial outrage during a game of PlayerUnknown's Battleground. So if you don't know the backstory, PewDiePie was live streaming. PewDiePie, which is the largest subscribed channel on YouTube with about 40 million plus subscribers, During a live stream, he used a racial slur to describe to describe a situation that was happening, or he was referring to someone as a racial slur. And of course, this backlash, this led to traditional media straight up attacking YouTube. So newspapers attacking PewDiePie, attacking YouTube, calling him, again, this is already building upon the whole Nazi controversy that PewDiePie had a few months earlier. So yeah, YouTube has had to change quite a lot since then. So what are your views on that?
I believe that that media currently, obviously, they're doing it obviously just the fact that there was a racial slur, and yes, it was really wrong of PewDiePie to have said something like that during a stream. But I do believe that media aren't just doing it for noble intentions. I do believe it's also to disenfranchise YouTube as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously, YouTube is an up-and-coming platform. Well, when I say up-and-coming, I mean like it's still where it lies in terms of up and coming. It's still a bit weird now because some people say it's on its decline, but some people are saying it's still rising.
I'd say it's definitely up there. It's overtaken TV by now.
Yeah, it's taken TV. Yeah, or easily taken over TV. And so, in terms of revenue, in terms of money, old forms of media like newspapers or TV shows or those kind of forms of media have been quite stifled by YouTube because YouTube is so up and coming, or is up there. But well, it's definitely up there. It's definitely above TV, and thus they're not getting the same kind of revenue, not getting the same kind of money that they used to.
Yeah.
Because if you want to watch something like Doctor Who, you can watch it online. You can watch it on YouTube. In fact,
well,
I wouldn't recommend it.
That's
But people do.
Yeah.
But there's also all sorts of new and interesting creations on YouTube, and all sorts of funny videos or educational, informative, news related. And so with TV, obviously it controls what you watch, whereas the internet you can pick whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want.
Yeah.
So I do feel like the old forms of media are worried about YouTube, are scared of YouTube because they see themselves being put to the back and fading away slowly. So I feel like they will take any opportunity to disenfranchise YouTube as a whole because it will profit them in the long run.
Yep. Yeah, what about yourself, Nezar?
Okay, so yes, I agree with everything said by Reuben. Talk about a platform that has changed in 12 years. YouTube of yesteryear was nothing like the YouTube of today.
Oh, God, no.
The fact that you can make money off YouTube at all is a great thing. It allows creativity, people who are really creative to get out there. But it's a double-edged sword in a way. I really don't think that YouTube is monitored the best way, because a lot of these things that get popular, and the most popular channels in particular, a lot of the time they tend to eclipse a lot of these smaller, more creative channels, and as such they're making more money. It can be compared to something like television, where you could argue something that is more brainless is getting more views than something like that takes like something that's more creative or better written, because you're trying to appeal to a wider audience, to a more mainstream audience. Let's take PewDiePie for example.
Yeah.
He was a gaming channel, and I think he still kind of is, right? He's changed his persona in recent years, but he's still more or less gaming. But gaming on YouTube is like the most, in a way, it's like the most common thing on YouTube now, right?
Yeah.
That and vlogs.
It's what brings in the most money. Again, double-edged sword. There's a lot of people who use the gaming platform to do a lot of things and, do it different, inform people about like their opinions on video games, or their opinion on stuff like, people take it further, talk about like video game analysis and all that. Then you've got people that play Call of Duty for an hour and swear and scream, and they're the ones that are getting all the views because kids love that stuff. Here's the thing, PewDiePie, in terms of that racial profanity that he said, if YouTube is going to become a mainstream media, it should be treated like one, and he shouldn't have said what he said. especially when he knows he's the number one subscribed person on YouTube as of right now. He should have known that kids would have been watching, that people would have been sensitive about that issue. Of course, he claims it was an accident. He didn't mean to say it. It was kind of a, that's whatever your opinion on that is. But he does kind of deserve to be punished for it. However, the way YouTube are doing it now isn't a way that's not just punishing him. They've restricted every other channel on YouTube now with
monetization.
There you go. They're restricting that. You want to get paid for your video? Well, you can't swear now.
Yeah.
You want to get, you got to look after your content. You got to dial it back. YouTube videos are now, because of Felix, they're being censored in a way.
YouTube now isn't really about you. It's more about what you can produce and how who and how you produce it,
or like how much you can bring in
to the platform, and what exactly YouTube is looking for. I mean, okay. So I started watching YouTube from about 2010s, not even then, even 2007s ish. I think I started watching YouTube. Do you know the old tutorials on how to hack your PSP or something like that? The really old tutorials on YouTube that had the copyright-free music, that metal music in the background, those old days. And back then, what I tended to notice about YouTube was that it was just so random. It was random. It was a person with a video camera who wanted to have fun with their mates uploading something to YouTube, and if it got viral, it got viral. If it didn't get viral, it was still fun. It was people uploading it for fun, people making content for fun. The very second money started getting involved with it, the very second Google started getting involved with it, things started changing around.
That's really the turning point, wasn't it?
It was Google.
The Google deal. That's really what turned YouTube around.
Don't even get me started on Google. I used to love Google, but they've done some shady shenanigans in the last couple of months.
I agree, yeah.
So we'll get on to Google. I mean, they make brilliant products. Google Pixel 2, hook me up with one of those if you want. But Google, we'll get on to Google in a bit.
And just the Google search bar in general.
Just the Google in general.
The thing that started it all.
Yes.
Truly the most revolutionary thing of our generation.
Google. But the whole YouTube stratosphere is what I'd say incredibly shaky. It's incredibly difficult to make money off YouTube if you're not someone that has a sort of certain set of views, or someone who has a certain set of opinions. It's incredibly difficult on YouTube to make money, even just if you are someone who's small or wanting to start up, because everyone is doing a similar thing. Everyone is doing either the exact same thing or doing something that's already been done. So to make yourself different out there on YouTube, yeah, you can do that, but the main difficulty is being found by people. A lot of people do watch YouTube, but not enough. But there's so much to choose from that you won't be able to see everyone. And the current state of YouTube itself, not favorable.
Nope.
But the thing is, you can't even monitor. You can't hire people to monitor all of YouTube, because the amount of videos that are being uploaded to YouTube every minute, every day, there's no way you could hire enough people to manage that. So you have to have an automated system, and I would agree with them in regards to that. But there are some things that I don't even know what these things are. I'll be honest, I don't know what these things are. But some things are just simply not fair to content creators, people who want to monetize their content.
Yeah, because I would say it's also to do with like the meaning. But so like obviously when PewDiePie said his racial slur, he said it out of just carelessness and not thinking it through, or quite a ridiculous move. But then you also have YouTubers like iDubbbz who actively use racial slurs all the time. But he hasn't been focused on. He hasn't, because obviously PewDiePie says it once. Okay, yeah, he's a big guy. He's got lots and lots of subscribers, and is quite viral. But if you look at someone like iDubbbz, for instance, who uses racial slurs all the time, his meaning behind using it is completely different. Obviously, he's very pro political incorrectness.
Yeah.
He's very against the politically correct, and he likes to counteract that. So it's kind of hard to, because obviously if one, like PewDiePie says it once, he gets a massive backlash. iDubbbz says it 100 times, not much disturbance. Yeah, that's people who would go, that's a bit too much,
It's because of the way that they're
much, yeah.
using the way that they're using it. So when you look at, for those who don't know who iDubbbz is a person who, as Ruby said, is a bit politically incorrect. He doesn't mind using certain words. He makes content on YouTube as well. But the way when iDubbbz uses that word, and I'm someone who would rather prefer not using that word totally for it, all of it. But when iDubbbz uses that word, he doesn't use it to attack anyone. He doesn't use it with the intention of having the negative connotation with it.
Yeah.
He uses it purely to remove the sort of the negative with it. He
wants to normalize it.
Yeah, he normalizes it in, like, what he said is it's all okay or none of it is okay.
Yeah.
Either you say it or you don't say it.
Yeah.
So he's going with the route of saying it completely. But the way PewDiePie used it, to me, was a bit sort of you could see the anger in his face when he said it. You could see like there was a sort of a really dislike regard in that moment when he said that word. So for that kind of feels a bit like, that pushes me a bit back and it's like, whoa, that's a bit uncool. That's not chill. That's not okay.
Yeah.
When he did that, but of course iDubbbz uses it in a different connotation, so that's why I would see it differently.
That's very true. But here's the thing: how would the whole monetization thing? How would it? I mean, obviously, I imagine iDubbbz isn't the best of friends with YouTube currently.
No.
I would say that in terms of his standing with YouTube, I don't think they're on the best of terms because obviously of the way he acts. Because obviously YouTube has become more politically correct. There's a lot more. Obviously, since, as Nezar said, it's going more mainstream. I do believe that some of the liberties and freedoms some people had back in the day will be taken away. There will be some things you can say and things you can't say. So it's kind of censorship, obviously, but
the very second it was bought up by Google, it was basically just politically correctness, because YouTube is a reflection of Google, and if people are criticizing YouTube, then Google has to step up and change it.
Exactly, yeah.
My opinion on the whole thing is, going back to that point, if it is going to become a mainstream media, it has to be treated as one. There are some things, you just gotta. It's hard because you just gotta watch what you say, and if if your show doesn't require you say that, don't say it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah,
it's like PewDiePie is the #1 most subscribed channel on YouTube. So imagine if you're watching an episode of The Simpsons on television and one day Homer turned to the camera and said a racial profanity. That's exactly what it's like. You'd be like, what?
Yeah.
He has to be treated, with
discipline.
But the problem is, YouTube isn't treating it like a mainstream media now. It's like, okay, anyone that swears is now gonna be.
It's treating it like a business. It's like it's because one person does it, everyone has to feel the repercussions of it.
Yeah.
That's one thing television right now has over stuff like YouTube. It is restricted to some part, like daytime television and stuff, but come nighttime, there's no restrictions on a lot of the stuff that's said there. YouTube doesn't have that kind of policy. YouTube doesn't have at daytime you can watch all the censored stuff, and at nighttime it's gonna become censored.
It's due to the fact that anyone can pick anything they watch any time of the day.
But the thing that I don't understand here is that YouTube specifically created a platform for this is going to move on to the whole sort of the YouTube Kids thing. YouTube specifically created a platform for kids, for them to watch content, and of course that did go down the dodgy route because people were making Mickey Mouse and Elsa and Spider-Man and Elsa videos that were really dodgy.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Really dodgiest shenanigans.
Where they say they put all the tags in the title of the video.
Those really disgusting videos that I just, oh god, I would not know. But they made a specific section for children, but then now they've gone onto the main YouTube and said, we're not going to let you earn anything, we're not going to let you do anything unless you make your content child friendly.
And that's the problem. You can't do that. And doing stuff like, they have to have an account over 18 isn't going to cut it, because kids.
They smart that just go, I'll just pretend to be over 18.
My friends were playing on Habbo when they were 12 years old.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So YouTube, without any age restriction things, we're never going to get a kind of YouTube where you can say what you want, stuff for adults, and then also stuff for children. It's randomly, because it's monitored by bots, they assume that it's all one same audience, which makes zero sense.
Yeah, because you can't judge, because different audiences have different, tolerances. And so if you lump everyone together as one singular audience, of course you're trying to appeal to the mainstream, but then again, some people would prefer creativity over, marketability.
Exactly. So like when your child watches television that's not for them, that's your fault and your child's fault. When they buy a video game that's above their age, that's their fault. That's your fault for not looking after it. But in terms of YouTube's logic, a child's watching something that's out of their age. Oh, it's the creator's fault.
Yeah.
Restrict your content.
Yeah, there might. I mean, there needs to be some kind of way of able to, filter out certain crowds. Obviously, yeah, kids are gonna watch whatever they want. They want to watch whatever they want. Their friends at school sees the video and go, "Oh yeah, this is great. I want to show you this," and then it leads to that kind of
dark spiral.
Yeah, dark spiral. You start exploring more videos and more videos and more videos, and it gets darker and darker and darker. And the slurs, the racial slurs, the swearing, the profanities become way worse.
Mind your profanity.
and to link it back to the
Nice
iDub,
one.
to link it back to the iDubbbz and PewDiePie thing from before that you brought up, that's the difference. PewDiePie, no matter how you spin it, is aimed for
The mainstream audience.
the mainstream audience. iDubbbz is aimed for older teenagers and adults. So in a way, he has more of a right to his content
Exactly. Yeah.
than somebody like PewDiePie does. That's the difference. You got to have this kind of, people with larger subscriber counts should be monitored more than,
Yeah. I agree with that.
So you say higher regulations for people that have higher subscribers?
Of course, because that's the mainstream. PewDiePie is the mainstream of YouTube. He's seen as their figurehead.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like the face, the representation
That- yeah.
of YouTube is
Hold
kind
on
of.
to that idea, because that sounds sensible right there. That sounds like something. Okay. Let's move it on from YouTube, because we don't have much time left. But there's one more topic that I think we all are sort of have an interest in, and that is Japan.
Noise.
Depends what you're talking about.
Well, okay, so one could arguably say that Japan is facing a crisis of population. They're not producing. People are not having enough children, and from the discussions that we've had before, what would you say that is down to?
There are so many factors that affect the population of Japan. I could be here all day talking about them.
Okay.
However, I'll just summarize. I mean, I've done my research on this one a bit because I was a bit interested in why population was going down. But my theory is that there's a lot of commodities, a lot of services that have been marketed to the Japanese people. Obviously, there's two things. There's the mindset of the Japanese people, which is work over
Personal life, social relations,
and the fact that they see, having a social life, having relationships as strenuous or, a bit, what's the word? A bit too much.
Yeah, they see it as unnecessary.
Exactly. They don't value it like the West does or we do. We don't, But then there's also combine that with commodities and services like maid cafes or cuddle cafes or host clubs, hostess clubs, and all sorts of commodities and objects that you can buy to feel like, feel loved or feel in a relationship. And so it seems like Japan has a very instant gratification kind of mindset. It doesn't value the long term, or it doesn't value investing in a family. It's not interested in that anymore. It's interested in very temporary fixes, not a long-term solution.
Okay.
And that's why I would say, in terms of having families, people aren't doing it as much because they value their work over their personal life, and there's so many things they can do to remedy that. They might as well, not bother.
They might as well not bother having a relationship or starting a family.
They don't see it as valuable.
What do you want to say, Nezar?
What do you add to that? That's a very good point, son. The struggling population
Of
Japan.
In a world where where the world population is increasing rapidly, it's already 7.4 million. There's one that is decreasing in Japan. Why would you say that is?
It's cultural differences for the main thing. Clearly, when you're raised in school here, from my perspective anyway, there's kind of always that mindset like, yeah, you're gonna go out there, find somebody, have kids. I never get that impression from Japan, at all.
No.
It's a society where you're the main focus is work. So a lot of people I could see being and I've watched documentaries and stuff like that, a lot of people genuinely don't want relationships because it's too much effort. on top of their already hard schedule, you're working a hard job like all your life. I guess that's just a lot of people have had no time for that. Adding to Reuben's point, yes, stuff like maid cafes, cuddle cafes, which I'll never understand. Besides,
I never will either.
Besides, I guess
places of instant gratification.
For some of you out there that are a bit on the lonely side, let me introduce you to Japan's cuddle cafes.
Nezar, stop, please.
We cannot do that.
But here's the thing. Yeah, I agree with all that. The host and the hostess clubs are the ones that bother me the most, because that is, for lack of a better term, it's really hard. Wait, are we off?
No.
Oh, we're still going. Okay.
We're still going.
For lack of a better term, it's kind of just like, I can't get a relationship. I'm going to pay somebody to pretend to be nice to me.
It seems so fake.
It's very fake, and that's the key word, right?
Yeah.
The society as a whole, like, I love Japan in terms of, I think the technology is amazing.
Oh yeah.
It's a very safe country. You can go there and you don't have to worry about any kind of crime, but it's a very weird kind of society, and the reason for that is, I think the key thing is very fake. There's a lot of, you're paying people to pretend to be nice to you. And I don't understand that kind of
again,
mindset.
just to reiterate, that's just coming from our point of view, from how we see it from our world. It might be completely different over there in Japan.
No,
and I would love to get the input of a Japanese person who's actually come straight from Japan on why this certain thing roll out. But
if we know anyone, that'd be great.
Again, that is from our opinion. I can definitely agree with you on some aspects of that, on most aspects of it, but when you look at just how the Japanese system works, you kind of see, like, again, combining both your points, you see why someone would rather pick not finding a family or finding someone a partner, because of the amount of effort placed on work, and because of the fact that you can pay someone to be nice to you. Heck, you can probably pay someone to be nice to you here if you wanted to.
I mean, obviously, since our culture values more, like, relationship, so they value relationships more than they do in Japan. So I think paying someone to be nice to you and no other services, if you know what I understand. If you
we get
it.
it.
Well, I definitely agree with that. With here, it's kind of seen as like, what, you're not in a relationship? That's weird. Kind of more so than like Japan, which is kind of like, whatever.
So like
Japan is
like everyone says, like, yeah.
Japan's like, what time is that next train arriving? Because I've been waiting here and it's not delayed.
Exactly. I got a cuddle cafe to get to. My 6 o'clock appointment.
Oh
my! I feel a general dislike of the cuddle cafes over here.
Don't like it. It's again. It's going back to Reuben's point. It's very fake, isn't it?
Yeah, it's instant gratification. It's not. As I said, yeah, exactly. It's so artificial.
I'd get like, if that was my life, I'd probably get like depressed knowing that somebody's being paid to pretend to be nice to me.
Well, that relates to another point that Japan has, which is a lot of young people are depressed. A lot of young people are returning to a state called hikikomori, which is where they shut themselves off from society.
Is it one of the highest suicide rates in the world?
Yes, although I don't know if it's lowered now.
Well, the thing is, my point on that would probably be due to the hard work schedule.
Yeah.
I'd assume that's number one on like why people would want to. Because like, imagine if England had that like kind of mindset, like work with England. There's a lot of stuff like, if stuff doesn't go through for you, there's another opportunity for you to like pick yourself back up. But with Japan, it's kind of like, this is what you're doing. This is your career, and if you fail this,
it's kind of a massive. I would say yes. I agree with Nezar's point that yes, the work schedule is quite long, quite tiresome. But I would also say it's to do with, back to my original point about instant gratification. Since people are not investing on their futures, everything is temperamental. Everything is now. So they don't value. And eventually, with instant gratification, like most stuff, you become numb to it. You lose the initial. What's the word?
You lose the gratification you get from it.
Exactly. You lose. There's no appeal in it anymore. And so when you lose all the things that you needed, you're left empty. You're left hollow. It doesn't feel quite. You don't have the same attraction to life as you previously did. So there's probably more depression due to the fact that you've gone numb to all previous, activities. Or can we call cuddle cafes hobbies? Can we call them hobbies? I don't want to.
We can call them pastimes.
Pastimes. That's better. Yeah, that's better.
Y'all just swimming around this issue line.
Yeah, no, I would definitely say that. I would say, yeah, agree with Nezar's point, but I also say it's due to the fact that no one's investing in their future. Therefore, they don't have. There's no family at the end of it. There's no, I'm going to go to work and then find a wife and then have kids and then watch my kids grow up and look after them. There's only you, and there's only artificial stuff, and that's it.
I think is that a sweet spot to wrap that up?
Sorry, kids, I kind of went a bit overboard.
No, that's fine.
Very, very good point to end on. Very good point.
Again, to illiterate, this is just from our perspective of view. We have our own issues in our society with people that are addicted to certain stuff that can lead them down the way of depression.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's another conversation. I think, based upon that, I think we've got a good amount. Would you say? Is there anything else you'd like to bring up?
The only kind of good cafe is a cat cafe, so, you know.
Well, maybe the Japanese would criticize you for that.
Well, cat cafes are awesome, though.
But
that's
why would you want to sit next to a cat, though?
I love cats.
What if they get angry at you and scratch you when you're drinking a cup of nice, tasty tea?
Well, they wouldn't do that, though, I'd hope.
Well,
I mean,
cats are vicious creatures.
Not the ones at the cat cafes.
Yeah, cat cafes, since the cats have been around so many people, apparently they do become quite friendly and quite, chillaxed with people.
I'm more of a dog person. A dog cafe sounds sweet, though.
Yeah, I mean, there is. I've heard. I think is there dog cafes?
Probably.
Probably.
As long as they're like cute dogs.
Cute dogs.
Yeah, that's like
a golden retriever.
Yeah.
Or a Jack Russell Terrier.
Not a pug though.
What, you don't want the epitome of Britain in your cafe? You don't want a pug in your cafe?
Well, I mean, yeah, if it's an English cafe, it probably, like dog cafe, it probably would have a pug.
Probably have a pug that just looks at you with the muppy eyes.
Disgusting.
Oh my gosh. Whoa. Okay.
And on that bombshell, I think we're going to wrap it up for today. So first and foremost, thank you to both Reuben. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for having me, Fritz.
And thank you to Nezar as well for coming along today.
Thank you very much for having me on. It was an experience.
Yeah, it was an experience. It's good to be back again. So hopefully you guys will join us for more shows in the future as well. Thank you to everyone who listened in. I hope that you enjoyed the show. We'll hopefully be back around the same time next week, maybe a bit earlier with a bit more of a poignant, with a bit more of a start and we'll run a bit smoother. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. English is not my first language. But we'll be back next week, hopefully, and it'll be a lot more smoother. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Watching?
I'm talking as if I'm streaming again. Oh,
you
no.
can see us.
Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week. So, Tea Time Talks, over and out.